Attendance this morning to the Board of Public Works and Safety meeting for March 17th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mr. Markgraf.
Here.
Mr. Long. Mr. Perez.
Here.
Any conflict of interest statements of board members? None here.
None.
None. Okay. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 10th, 2022. I would recommend approval of those minutes.
I concur.
Bid openings, there are none. Matters from department heads and or their representatives. I see nothing. Okay. Item 7, correspondence. Item A, correspondence received from Chief of Police William Short recommending applicants Christopher Sides and Iman White be appointed as probationary members of the Hammond Police Department to serve their one-year probationary period effective March 10th, 2022. I will recommend to approve Chief Short's request.
I concur.
Item B. Correspondence received from Nice Engineering, Inc., recommending the 2022 Hammond resurfacing project be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Milestone Contractors North, Inc., in the amount of $1,979,469 submitted for approval.
So, good morning to the board.
Morning.
So, just to be clear, this is an annual contract that we have typically renewed or extended over a process of years. The value of the contract was only for the purposes of basing the low bidder, right? So these are variable. We get unit prices for each line item, and we establish what the baseline is. We will come back to the board and seek approval for different projects to be funded through this plan. So we're approving an agreement with Milestone, but we have not set the limit for the amount of work that we're going to do. That's actually going to go through the Capital Improvements Board for funding, and that'll occur Monday for the first $1 million, and then we'll come back. So we'll periodically fund this resurfacing project as we go forward. So this is just the amount shown there is a basis to compare all of the contractors for, and Milestone, based upon the quantities that we typically use.
So it could be someone other than Milestone the next time?
No, sir. We're setting an agreement with Milestone for the next 12 months.
Okay.
And any resurfacing that we do, we just contract with them.
Okay. Okay, I will recommend to approve the recommendation from Nice Engineering.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, correspondence received from Dean Button submitting the request from Gary Up Construction for road closures at various locations for the 5th District Stormwater Improvements Project.
So you'll notice that Gary Up Construction had requested closure of Wicker. Hope I have that right. I get
Wicker on 171st?
71st, yeah. Then that occurred on Tuesday. I did notify the fire department and the police department of the closure in advance, and I've asked the contractor to give us more notice than a matter of a day, really, for closure so that the board can approve. But so I've authorized the closure effective this past Tuesday. We're asking the board just to ratify that decision.
So they're still there now, right? I thought they said 5 days on here. They say 5 days.
Yeah. So they have another couple days to get through the intersection.
Okay, I will approve the city engineer's request.
I concur.
Okay, moving along, item D. Correspondence received from Dean Button submitting the request from Midwestern Electric to temporarily close 177th Street on March 21st, 2022 at 7:30 a.m. for 4 to 6 hours to repair a high-mast light tower.
This is the location near the Paluska property,
Yes.
near the old Ted Muta property. That street has to be closed in order to set up the process of pulling down the tower. You may recall, we've done this, our Midwestern has done this for the state of Indiana at Kennedy Avenue interchange. That was some 2 or 3 months ago. So they're having to take down the light for maintenance, and then they'll be replacing it, and I'm not sure when that'll happen exactly, but this is for that process.
So they do say here there's gonna be access for local traffic?
From either direction,
Right.
right, yeah.
Off of Harrison, right, in
Harrison from the west.
Calumet, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll recommend to approve the submission for Midwestern Electric.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the limericks this morning, Mr. Button.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item E, correspondence received from Ron Novak requesting the approval of the proposed license agreement requested by Enviro Forensics for property along 129th Street between Calumet Avenue and Sheffield, submitted for approval.
I did speak to representatives from Enviro Forensics. They're helping us determine the extent of contamination as a result of work that we intend on doing on 129th. The city received about $900,000 from the state Indiana Finance Authority for transportation stormwater grants, and we applied for 129th. You know, we have standing water on the southbound right-hand lane of Calumet Avenue pretty regularly, and so we're trying to resolve that. But we need to determine the extent of any possible contamination of the groundwater in order to be able to manage that, and First Group subcontracted with Enviro Forensics to help us with that determination.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll recommend to approve the proposed license agreement with Enviro Forensics.
I concur.
Item F, correspondence received from Hammond Mohawks requesting permission to hold a Memorial Day parade with attached route on May 30th, 2022, starting at 11 a.m., submitted for approval. Let's see, Cavalier in.
Good morning, Mr. President. I can report to the board that the Park Board approved their portion of the request last night, and I was informed that it would be before the Board of Works this morning, so this is the annual Memorial Day Parade, which has, of course, not been annual over the last couple of years due to COVID, but they're back on for this Memorial Day up in North Hammond. And so I would just request, obviously, that it be forwarded to PD for any action needed, and that it be approved contingent upon PD's approval.
Okay. Mr. Button, would you know, is there any road construction on this route here that may hamper their efforts? They're going to Holman, going to 139th. I'm just if you might have off the top of your head.
Gosselin, right? They usually start right by the Cavalier, I think.
They do start the Cavalier in,
Go
Going to Holman?
west to Holman.
139th.
Yeah, so Holman's got a roundabout now.
At Gosselin?
I'm sorry, Goslin. No, at Holman is okay. So they're westbound to Holman. That's okay. Yep. Northbound on
Going
Holman.
north.
Yep.
39.
Yep. That's fine.
And they go into like Johnson or something.
139th to Johnson, right?
Johnson.
To Hewen, to Cameron.
There's no road construction.
Okay.
Sir, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll recommend approval of the parade route upon, you suggested,
Just making sure PD also.
oh, making sure that the police department, as well as other public safety, the fire department's made aware of the route and the time.
Maybe Public Works, obviously, and I think who else? Public Works and EMA.
We'll add them all. Police, fire, my recommendation would be police, fire, EMA, Public Works. Yes.
I concur.
Let me write all these down. Let's see. FD, PD. Okay. Oh, boy. Item G, correspondence received from Brian Miller, Purdue University Northwest, requesting approval to hold a 5K Power Onward Community Walk-Run event on April 2nd, 2022, from 8:45 a.m. to 11 a.m., affecting various streets. Purdue Northwest police officers will monitor the traffic and prevent cars from disrupting the walk, and groundkeeping crews will put out barriers and request the assistance from Hammond Public Works Department if needed. Let's see, 20 minutes, 60 minutes. Okay, it's just by reading what Mr. Miller has sent us. I know in the past we've had some complaints about the neighborhood wasn't made aware of the fact that this was happening.
Yeah,
And some of them were disgruntled because they couldn't get out.
Yeah, I would just suggest that Purdue give notification in advance, maybe that, that's a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So they should give notification by, I would think, Thursday, Friday at the latest. That did not come before the park board, but it's just a run, it's not an event.
Yeah, it's a run and a walk.
Yeah.
They got the route here,
It's
it's
just
right around the
streets.
school. It's in that neighborhood there.
Yep, they do it every year, yep.
Yes, okay. I'll recommend to approve Purdue Northwest request with notifications, with the request that they notify the neighborhood 3-4 days in advance of what's going to be taking place. So Linda, we're going to, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Johnny.
I concur.
All right, thank you. Item H, correspondence from resident Frank Romano, 7105 Madison, requesting the change of parking signs to no parking on 171st in Madison due to him not being able to get in his driveway. I know exactly where the house is. We did put signs up, no parking to the side, I do believe, on the south side of the school, at the school's request, I believe.
That's by the dairy.
Yes,
Right.
it's down from the Dairy Belt.
But we didn't go, we only went between Madison. This is
I thought we were going from Calumet to
Madison.
Madison, right? He lives right on that corner.
He's on Madison though, right?
He's right on the corner of Madison and 171st.
Right.
Yeah, and then, right. His driveway is on 171st, so obviously people must still be parking there, waiting to pick their kids up, it appears.
What do we have currently there? Temporary, temporary no parking signs?
So they're up for temporary, right? They need to be.
Do we know since when?
It was last year.
Okay, so they're probably expired.
And
This goes to the point I was making.
I know.
I'm happy
Mr.
that
Smith.
Councilman Tyler and Councilman Torres are here, because this is kind of exactly the situation that I was talking about at the caucus.
I think
Where-
once the school year started, they kind of saw that it was going to be an issue, and then we gave the temporary approval to put them on the south side to eliminate.
Right.
But this is for a period of time as school is letting out, so it's like.
Oh, just specific
2:30
hours in the
Yeah,
morning
it's
and in
only
the
for-
afternoon, I
For
see.
a period of time during school days.
I got you. So kindergartners that go half-day still could be a parking issue because those hours aren't specified, probably.
I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know what the signs look like.
Okay. I mean, I'll check it out after the meeting today,
What-
see exactly what he's, but I think you're right, Dean.
How, I don't understand the condition. He can't get into his driveway because,
Because
Probably
people are,
there's cars there, there's probably cars there.
But we're
and he
telling them
he
they're not
can't-
allowed
He
to
can't turn in. Right.
for a period of time, so they must be parking there during the time when they're allowed to park,
Yes.
right?
Maybe.
Very possible, sure. That could be.
But that would have been, that would have happened for years, because there had never been no parking signs there. So people would have always been able to park there.
but they shouldn't drive. Is he saying they're blocking his driveway?
Well, I mean, that's what he says. But if you've ever seen how they turn in, they line
Line up.
up, they pick up and they drop off.
In that roundabout.
There's people that don't want to get hung up and tied up and all of that, so they park on the street and walk the kids across.
So is it because it's at drop-off time? Because we've only prohibited parking during pickup time.
That's what the sign says? The sign says,
It says from 2:30 to 4.
Oh, so I don't know, maybe it's from-
2:30 PM on school days.
so I think probably the best thing to do today, well, a couple reasons. One, I'd like to see what the council does with our ordinance in a couple weeks. Two,
Okay.
it might be good to allow Dean a chance to talk with the resident to see what the issue is. But if they're, if they're beyond the 90 days or whatever the term was, we may have to, think about, it just depends what the council does in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Is there contact information for the resident?
No, there's not a phone number, no.
I'm sure we can get it.
But, yeah, I know who he is. I know who he is.
Okay.
He's
So
a
maybe if we-
retired firefighter from,
okay.
20 years ago.
So I'm thinking, let's see, maybe do 3 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks.
Status? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, we'll set this over for status. School might be out by then, but 3 weeks, where do we go? Gotta be in the 1, 2, 24th, 31st, April 7th. Recommend we set this over for status till April 7th, 2022.
I concur.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Button. Item I, correspondence received requesting a rental registration hearing. I'll recommend we set these for status March 31st, 2022.
I concur.
Okay. Matters from board members? None here. John?
None here.
None? Okay. Item 9, new business. Amusement devices listing submitted for approval from Controller's Office. Pretty straightforward, right, Jessica, right? Okay. All right, I'll recommend that we acknowledge and approve the amusement devices for the week of March 14th.
I concur.
Item B, right-of-way permits 4 submitted for approval from the engineering department. Engineering department, they're good. Good to go. I'll recommend to approve their right-of-way permits.
I concur.
Garage sale permits submitted for approval. That's going to be. Okay. Okay. I recommend we approve the garage sale permits.
I concur.
Disposal authorization submitted for approval from the Hammond Police Department. Nice. Okay. I will approve the disposal authorization submitted for approval from the Hammond Police Department.
I concur.
Item 10, old business. Item A, status, Jimenez Auto Repair.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Christian Bartholomew here on behalf of Jimenez Auto. This has been kicking around for a while now. The last time we were here, we had decided that a survey and title work would be needed for the property to clear up some issues that I've been working with Brian Poland on concerning my client's proposal to put in the auto repair shop, but we haven't yet finalized a plan that Brian would be happy with. There's some turning radius issues with autos entering in the current plan. There's some issues with parking spaces. I have completed the survey. We've completed the title search. I've discussed those with Brian. And in light of what's come back on those, we're going to go through another round, go back to our architect, have him make some minor modifications to the plan that was presented to Brian and see if we can address the turning radius, the parking issues, and there's also a new issue that arose with regard to the Chicago Street project and some of the landscaping that was anticipated on the plan. So that is what I'm currently working on now. There's still an outstanding question regarding the zoning, I think, and the property has been in continuous use as a car wash. So I'm inclined to say that we're probably going to ask that it be recognized as a prior non-conforming use, just convert over the current use, which I understand from Brian that that's maybe that's not his preferred approach, but it's a valid approach. Before we get too deep into the zoning, though, my impression is that we really need to get these plans worked out with Brian, because if we can't get a plan that makes sense, then if that's not going to get approved, it really doesn't make much sense to go through jumping through additional hoops on
Would
zoning.
you know if Mr. Jimenez has Plan B?
Has a plan B for
Outside of what's going on here, because there are still some of the same issues, how all this got started over off 149th Street.
With the
Cars
old-
parked on both sides and
my
type things.
My understanding is that the immediate ordinance violation and car parking issues he addressed. Now, for the long term, I haven't heard anything from him about having an alternative location to move the shop if this one doesn't work. So at this time, I really don't have any further information about any alternative locations, but we're still plugging away at this one. And my understanding from after dealing with the city engineers is they didn't think that this location would be problematic. There's also an issue with the Chicago Street project. Until that's completed, we may not be able to get much off the ground here, because we're right on the edge of
Right.
that proposed roundabout.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Bartholomew for staying on top of this, number one. And secondly, Mr. Poland's here from City Planning Department. Brian, did you want to update the board on anything based on what Christian said? And also, I guess I would just note again and just remind everybody that we do have, and we haven't enforced this at this time, even though we could, is that we still have 2 business licenses running out of there unless there's been an update on that. I don't know. No, so we still got the tire shop and the repair shop running out of there, which of course is in violation, so we got to deal with that as well.
Kevin, is that for the old location?
149th.
The 100?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Are those both in my client's name?
No, one is not.
I'll talk to him about
Yep, that'd be great.
Actually, Attorney Bartholomew pretty much characterized our most recent conversation correctly, and so we're just trying to work through the details as he illustrated.
So what kind of timeline from your end to continue and finish up your due diligence do you think we may need here?
Well, I think that would be dependent upon getting revised drawings and double-checking some of the road construction designs to make sure we know clearly whether or not there's an effect on the northwest corner of the property.
Right. Status, Mr. Smith?
I think so, status would be appropriate. I mean, I think we all understand that this has been dragging a little bit, but I don't think it's for lack of diligence, especially since Christian's been involved. It seems like at least the meetings are happening and it's moving along. I mean, I think Brian would agree. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know, maybe a 45-day, does that sound?
Brian, would
Brian, does that give you
that kind of, with
That's fine.
going before the board, your board and all that, 45 days?
That should be good. I think that'll give us time to, get the new plans from the architect, and,
What is that?
we can discuss them and see where that leads.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know, April, you want to go, how about May 5th? May 5th? That's maybe a little, few days beyond 45, but.
May 5th should be fine.
Okay. All right, I'll recommend that we set this over for status to May 5th, 2022.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I concur.
Item B, 847 117th Street.
This is the old Rupp Library up in Robertsdale. They signed a rehab agreement back, actually it was dated in December for them to start, and they signed it. You may recall they were both in here on January 20th. Signed it right before the board. I did check with Mylan, who lives near there, just to get an update. He said the owners have been working inside the last 2 weeks. So I assume they pulled permits, although I'm not sure.
I believe the permit was issued, what, the rehab agreement being signed since it expired?
Okay, so maybe Kelly can double check on that. Brian, anything before your board or any plans?
I do not recall anything come through us. It was conversion of a library to a single-family home.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. So I guess I'd ask Kelly how he wants to proceed. Obviously, the rehab agreement is expired. It sounds like, based on what Mylan said, there's some work being done, which I guess is a positive, but we're outside of the rehab.
As long as this is going forward, I don't want to stop it. I'll check and see if there's a permit on file, but it is my understanding the permit wasn't issued because the rehab agreement has expired. So they would have to go to law department, get the rehab agreement updated for their dates. Maybe we'll get a date that will be to the end of this. In the meantime, we'll do an inspection, see what work is being done, make sure it's being done to code.
Rehab agreements are good for how long?
Varies.
Well, usually it goes 90, 120.
Oh, I
something
see.
like that,
So
depending.
the one,
Sometimes 180.
so the one that he just signed here a couple weeks ago is already,
Well,
Signed in December.
yeah, it actually was dated in December, but we couldn't get him to sign it. So he
oh,
ended up
that's what
coming
they
that
did.
day,
Okay,
And he signed it.
I got you.
uh,
Okay.
Sorry, it's up here.
gotcha.
He signed it on January 20th. The board approved it on, I just want to make sure I'm
All right.
accurate on this, 120, and it expired March 9th.
Oh,
So I don't have a
okay.
problem extending it. We just have to, like Kelly said, we're happy to extend it as long as work's being done.
Okay, so we're gonna set this for status? Or,
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should do a short status just to get an update. And then in the meantime, we'll try to communicate with them that they need to sign a new
a
rehab.
new one?
Let's go for 2 weeks. We'll get them to sign the rehab agreement either here or in the law office. If law will contact them that they need to get that done. In the meantime, we'll give us a chance to do the inspection and see what exactly is going on and what needs to be done.
Okay, March 31st?
Fine with me.
All right. All right, I recommend we set this over for status to March 31st, 2022.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item C, 222 through 224 Conkey Street.
Mr. President, this was up in front of you also on January 20th. We set it for status. At that time, Mike Farrow appeared by Zoom, and he said that the trees were down, the fence was done, the garage and deck were done, just a handful of things left, 30 to 45 days to be done. We set it for status today. I believe Mr. Hine is the one, based on my communication with Mr. Luter, that's kind of been monitoring this. So, to me, I mean, unless Mr. Kearney feels differently, I think it could probably come off the demo list and we can rescind. So I'll get an order to rescind on file with the board in the next couple weeks.
Okay, so we're just acknowledging,
Yep.
Okay, all right, the board acknowledges 222 through 224 Conkey. Okay, item 11, meeting's open to the public.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I was supposed to be on the agenda for last week, but I was out of town last week for a funeral give a status on 4905 Linden. So I finally got a hold of the plumber, and he's asking for 2 weeks so he could come in for his roof. He said he'd have his roof ready in about 2 weeks. He had say a couple of guys that got sick over there on the job, I guess, and I guess he just getting his crew back together. Say he had to catch back up on a few things. So I had told him that he hadn't made no contact with me in about a month since that had happened. But I finally got a hold of him on Tuesday, and he was supposed to have been here this morning, but he asking for 2 weeks so he could call in his roof. He got all the stuff there, got it cut open, but he got nothing connected. So in 2 weeks, he was asking for a roof.
First of all, my condolences for your loss.
Thank you.
Secondly, knowing that you were supposed to appear last Thursday, is there any communication with anybody in the city that you may not be able to be here?
No, because when we got the call, we left out that night. And we got down there.
Okay. Mr. Kearney?
Had a brief conversation, Mr. Taylor, a couple days ago. Last time we did put this out for bid. I think in putting out for bid, it's going to go to bid twice. The 2-week status is fine because I'd still be out for bid. But I still want to run through that process in bidding and awarding. So if this project stops again, there'll be a backhoe there.
So the individual you're looking to begin work or complete work is going to happen within 2 weeks?
Yeah, yeah.
What about, Mr. Taylor, what about, one of the things we showed the board last week were just the Tyvek's all looking ratty because
I
it's been
took
there
it down.
forever, okay?
Because I'm going to cut the top off.
And then there was a discussion that you were planning on putting a second floor on them. And when you were in front of the board in the fall, you said project done by, March, April. So what's the new timeline if it's gonna?
I just need, when the plumber gets done, I'm going to need about a month, that's it.
So wait,
Because the
but you're
plumber,
still
the
gonna put a
electrician-
second floor on?
Yeah, the plumber, electrician. Once he get done, everything's there. All we need to do is just put it in once he get done with the plumbing.
I mean, I'm not a contractor, I guess, but you mentioned you were gonna have a guy up to do the roof.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna put a second, maybe I don't get this. If you're gonna put a second floor on, wouldn't you wanna put the second floor on before you put the new roof on?
Yeah, we're going to. That's why we're going to cut, that's why the top base is down. We're going to cut all the way around.
Build
take
the
top
second
off.
floor?
Yeah, you understand what I mean.
Okay.
Stand the walls back up and put the roof on.
Gotcha, okay.
I do like the idea of a month to put pressure on Mr. Taylor to get this job done. At the same time, I think it's unrealistic to have a second floor built.
Yeah, I say,
In-
once
in-
he's done his 2 weeks,
in one.
give me a month and we do. Yeah.
Let's go for 60 days, or I'm afraid we'll be back here in a month asking for another 30 anyway. So we go 60 days, if Kevin's okay with that.
Are we gonna continue, we're gonna bid it out though, right?
Yes, I don't want to stop that process at all.
So we're not going to do a 2-week status, we're going to go a 60-day?
Yes.
60-day window?
And with the understanding from Mr. Taylor, he understands that we're bidding it out for demo. So that we're keeping that process going.
So as long as mine, go through stuff and size up.
You need to get to work.
Gotcha.
Okay, May 19th, will that work?
Fine with me?
Fine.
All right, May 19th. All right, I'm going to set this out for 60-day status, recommending to May 19th, 2022.
I concur.
All right, thank you. What did I say, May 19th? Hey, Councilman Tyler?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you gentlemen doing?
Good.
I'm just here today to just speak on the issue that was recently brought to my attention. There's been some concerns about traffic patterns around the newly named Annie Burns Hicks Elementary, the former Maywood Elementary. And currently there are suggestions about making Tapper Street in between Moss and Cleveland one way to help with that flow of traffic. Because a lot of times you'll see cars coming both ways and they're just putting kids in danger, speeding and almost hitting each other. So, because I think it's kind of like a blind spot coming around that corner.
What would the one-way be? Going north or going south?
Going south.
One-way going south.
But, so that is a suggestion that's on the table, not necessarily coming from me. What I'm proposing is that we put together a group of individuals to just do a study to see what makes the most sense. I spoke with the principal of Maywood, Latera Smith, and she's interested in doing the same thing. I think she doesn't necessarily have any suggestions right now, but just wants to have us look into it. I also spoke with Superintendent Miller of the school system, and he wants to appoint a couple people from the district to be a part of this conversation too. So just suggesting that we pull together maybe representatives from engineering, maybe one of you, if you want to be a part of it, of course, and then representatives from the district to come together and have a conversation about what makes the most sense.
So the log jam, so obviously they must go through the parking lot, pick their kids up, head out, and they head down. Remind me of the street they're going east on.
Cleveland.
Okay.
Yep.
And so once they get to Tapper, that's kind of where the bottleneck
Right,
begins?
right.
Because it's four-way and cars are going all different directions?
And I guess there was a stop sign recently put up sometime I think this school year,
On that intersection?
somewhere in that intersection, yes, or somewhere in that area.
Okay.
And I'm not, from what I'm being told from residents, I'm not sure the stop sign is, like Dean would say, is not necessarily helping traffic. So that's another reason why I think, it just makes sense for us to come together and look more into it.
Okay, what do you think, Mr. Bunton? What would our next step be?
Thank you, Councilman Tyler. We can, I appreciate Councilman Tyler's effort. We can certainly pull a group together. I'd want to involve a traffic expert. Danny comes up. First Group Engineering's up here every week. He's usually here on Wednesdays. So if we can program a Wednesday in the next couple weeks, then we'll form.
So you two can coordinate
Yep.
something, and then whomever you may want to get involved, you would notify them as well?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, keep the board informed of what the plan is.
okay, all right. Cool, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Tyler?
That'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one.
Of course you do.
Sorry.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I should have come up earlier on this. Milestone North Contractors is working on Chicago Street Phase 2, the segment between Sheffield and Marble to Torrance. And they've asked for a road detour reconfiguration. They've been alternating. They're doing utility work on the south side of Chicago Street. And so we've been alternating the closure from Johnson to Torrance to John. So Johnson's open right now. Torrance is closed. They want to close Johnson and reopen Torrance. And so they like to do that. They sent me a request earlier this week, and I just now sent it to the law department for that. And so I'd ask that the board approve a request by Milestone to close Johnson Avenue at Chicago and reopen Torrance Avenue starting today. And I believe it's a period of, 1 second. It looks like 2 weeks.
The only thing I was going to mention is that they're currently at Johnson and Chicago, or maybe it's Hoffman, their signage that, no, I think it's Chicago, that it says basically it's a South Shore parking this way down Johnson. So if they're going to close that, they probably should.
They will.
Move that sign.
We talked all about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they need to relocate all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
just to kind of help.
Yeah, we talked all
everybody out.
about that. And we talked particularly about making sure that the motorists who are, for example, let's see, so we're closing Johnson. And so if you were westbound on Hoffman, and we're closing you'd want to notify them at Torrance to turn right there.
Yeah.
Because if they missed that, they'd miss Johnson because it's closed, and they'd have to go all the way down to Sheffield and sort of come back.
Right.
So we're having them put signs up at Torrance to turn northbound, either from the eastbound or westbound direction. And so we wanted high visibility in that area, and I got the contractor to agree to that.
Okay. Anything further on that?
No, there's
All right,
nothing
I'll
further. Thank you.
recommend that we approve Mr. Button's request for Milestone to temporarily close Johnson again and reopen Torrance Avenue for roughly a period of 2 weeks? Yes, sir. Okay.
I concur.
Okay. For the record, I'd like to recognize Mr. Kearney for St. Patty's Day today. He's the only one that's got on green. Well, Wayne kind of does a little bit. Councilman Torres?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
There's also an issue around Irving School on Chicago Avenue. So I'm going to ask for a traffic study there, especially around in the mornings, drop off, and the afternoons for pickup, whether signage, flashing lights. Also, the 4700 block of Oak and Pine, 47 Pine, extremely congested during, again, pickup and drop-off. And that school is fairly new. Originally built for about 350 kids. Now it's double that, almost 800 kids in there. 764, I was told last count. So, of course, the traffic is double since they closed Lafayette and Columbia. So, extremely congested, and then people park anywhere they can to pick up and drop off their kids. So, appreciate a study, see what can be done.
So, I mean, by Irving School, I'm just trying to refresh my memory here. There's one-way streets on both sides,
On
right?
both sides, yeah.
So, I'm sure, there's a line, you just line up, you drive around, pick up your child, and off you go, right?
Yeah,
But then you have people parking on the streets, they're walking across the street to get their kids, walking back across the street to get in the car.
Yeah, and both are, of course, one side of the house. Pine, it's got residential houses on the west side, and
Yeah.
Oak has got on the east, so,
So they're parking there as well.
yeah. And people, of course, complain about that, but
So, Mr. Button, was this something we would recommend to your office? Yes, sir. Okay.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, I'll make a recommendation to refer to Councilman's request for a traffic study in and around Irving School and 4700 block of Oak and Pine.
I concur.
Anyone else from the public care to speak? Okay, I'm going to recommend to adjourn the meeting. Okay, meeting's